took so long.
Big ideas don't come easy. But when you get one, use that moment of clarity.
Hey, baby. Turtle? Yeah. Hey, you. Go play in your room or sit down and watch TV, bro. I'm not gonna play with you. You will get your ass kicked today. Do what you're told.
If you need to use the restroom, so
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes, I forgot about that. Okay. And the bathrooms just right down there. Are you
yes,
guys
sir.
Oh, Chris. Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. I'm just trying to consider. Oh, yeah. Chris. And whatever you guys want to do, right? You're with, yeah. You did try to trick before, right? Oh, nice. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just, we're probably gonna get started at 6:17. Yeah,
That
okay.
close right now. When you, yeah, they're gonna get this food. It opens at 5 o'clock.
Oh, I see. That's for the evening.
That's opens at 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right on the edge.
Yeah.
well, this building still goes up there.
Yeah.
So, like, should we ask? Are you guys okay with staying sister? Okay. She's our girl. This is our girl. From child, remember? Yeah, this is our girl. Very much. But have him pose.
I don't want to pose. No, no, no.
I don't pose.
Oh, sure.
We're going to do like oh my god.
No, I don't have a new wife. This is the one.
I'll be using it.
Trust me, everybody, nobody knows the
Darling. I've been using that Oh, wow. Oh, that's a good reason.
We're just preparing for music. She goes to American Academy of Medical Arts.
Here or where?
Here.
Girl, we talk. Are you an actress? Yes.
That's what she's going to school for.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the thing is, I can always bounce around the classes sometimes.
Hello. Bro, that's a damn shame. Why is my mic so fucking low? Do I need to take this off? Like, do I do I just need to get a new mic? Fuck. Is that a little bit better? Is that a little bit better? That's crazy. I don't know why I had to do that, but that's crazy. Is that a little bit better? That's crazy. I don't know why I had to do that, but that's crazy. Alright, now that that's fixed. That was gonna piss me off. Y'all have no idea how bad that was really gonna piss me off because like it just wasn't picking up. But that's why you know test it out. This is what we got going on right now. This shit right here. And that's cool with me. Alright. Like I said, I'm about to roll up. Now that I got my shit right. Scam likely get declined.
Setting up in another direction.
Yeah, I'm gonna move different over there. Yeah.
Now that I got my sound right, I'm actually about to skip up to where they actually start talking. But if you're tapping in though, thank you for tapping in. Thank you for your support. Make sure you share this live. We finna really get into it.
But we're getting all the fans over.
His pussy's water.
Whatever. Just squeeze it over there.
Where's it gonna be at?
Back this way.
Right. Alright, let's go ahead. Cause yeah. I don't know why they always start filming, but I guess they want to make sure everything good, so kind of like how I did. Oh, here we go. So while we wait on that, yeah, so I've been seeing this all over, everywhere I go, and it's like, it's bittersweet. This is a bittersweet moment because this ain't nothing we didn't know already. That's what's really crazy. It's like, it's not like we didn't know this was happening. It's not like, you know, this is just like something that's just out of the blue. We all saw this coming, and we told y'all it was finna coming. Yeah, it's finna be up. So we started it. I went and got my blunt because I feel like I'ma need it. I feel like I'ma need it because this is crazy. Because now all I want is live apologies. That's all I want. Is your apologies. Apologize as loud as y'all was, especially.
All right, everybody.
Oh shit, we starting.
First off,
My name is Caesar McDowell.
What up,
I am
Caesar?
the CEO and co-founder of Unite the People. We're a nonprofit organization that promotes social justice as well as provides affordable legal services
All right.
for the underserved community here in the state of California. Today, we want to thank everybody for coming out.
Oh, this is what
all
they
of
do.
The press, all of the fans, everyone that's here today. We want to say thank you for coming. Today, we're going to hear some really, really compelling new evidence that you've never heard before. Our legal team will explain all of that to you. We will have updates on Tory Lanez, Mr. Peterson, on how he's doing. It's really sad to see the situation that he's in, and we think it's time. Enough is enough.
Enough is
It's
enough.
time to bring the brother home. So with that, I would like to bring up our lead consultant, Mr. Walter Roberts.
All right, let's get it popping. Let's get it popping.
Good morning. We are here today to bring to your attention some information Unite the People believes is exculpatory in Mr. Daystar Peterson's case, professionally known as Tory Lanez. Recently, we've been made aware that a member of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence. During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell. Unite the...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I know they ain't just say what I think I just said. Well, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me there was some information, some new evidence that popped up, and then when all the parties were notified about that, then they went and got their ass home and came, and only one person, one people's team came by? Only one person's? And that one person happened to be Megan's team? And you tell me right after they reach out for more information on this said new evidence that man, Tory Lanez, ends up in the hospital with 14 stab wounds, collapsed lung. Oh my, the horror. Are y'all insinuating what I think y'all insinuating?
People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out, but given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor
Yuri,
to either pardon
I'm up here
or
smoking.
to
If
make
you
a
don't
sentence
take
of
your
this
ass in your room, I'm whooping
so
your
that when
ass,
he
bro.
recovers from this attack, he's not
Go!
returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and
Go lay down, bro. Go.
Not long ago,
She
United
wasn't.
was
She
approached
just, bro,
by a
she get up here
gentleman named
jumping
Bradley
on
James.
everything.
Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, She fired it 3 times. Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement
Just
of the
run
only
this back.
non-party witness. Come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover. Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do.
So is this the dude in the elevator that changed his story, or is this the bodyguard, whatever, that the dude that went missing, like that nobody ever heard from? That but all of a sudden now, you mean to tell me what, it's been a year and some change, damn near 2 years, and it took you maybe, I think it's been longer than 2 years since he's actually been in prison, or has it been? It's only been a year. It's only been a year. But a year after he's sentenced, you telling me that now it's weighing on your conscience now? Now what's weighing on your conscience? I see. After he gets stabbed 14 times, it weighs on your conscience? I see. Let's continue.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun.
Wait a minute. She had you. No, you didn't say that, bro. What is this?
You ever have a clip you just
What
want to
the
share with your friends? You can't go back and.
Bro, what the I'm not paying for no YouTube Premium.
But given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover. Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial.
So this is the dude that disappeared. Yeah. Had to run that back. Had to catch that. Had to give my full attention. My bad, y'all. This is homie that disappeared. He straight up disappeared. Like, he was supposed to go. Oh, wow.
As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with United.
So he could have came forth at any time. There was nothing holding him back. That's crazy.
And that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do.
Yeah, I said my nigga almost died.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This
Get that man out of there. Get that man out of that cell. Get that man out of there. I need Megan in jail. Buck that immunity. I need Kelsey's bitch ass in jail. Bradley, you gotta go too. You gotta go too. You gotta go too. Cause you should have been came forward. We needed you. We needed you a year ago. This is a damn shame.
statement aligns with the statement of
Rock Nation need a whole Rico. Rock Nation need to get a whole Rico.
the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw two women fighting, two men break up the fight, one man grabbed the other one's arm, gunshots came from the passenger side. Passenger side is where Miss Harris was sitting.
Not Tory.
This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in the list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense?
Man.
Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense?
Man.
We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken.
Damn.
Another irregularity. Why, at Miss Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate?
Who?
She fired it 3 times. Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down. He was working as the bodyguard and driver for Miss Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others.
Oh, he wasn't the one
Mr.
that was
Peterson,
there.
I'm sorry, Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Miss Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm, gunshots came from the passenger side. Passenger side is where Miss Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete.
That's crazy.
It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Ms. Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate? Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature of his trial and his conviction. It is our contention
This is crazy.
that he was wrongly convicted.
This is crazy.
And while we at first were willing to let the process play out, it is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Gianno Caldwell, a media member who was working on that op-ed for the New York Post. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. My name is Gianno Caldwell. That is spelled Gianno, Caldwell, Caldwell. I am the founder of the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety at caldwellinstitute.org. I am also a member of the press for almost a decade now. I've been looking into Daystar Peterson's case for almost 6 months now, professionally known as Tory Lanez. And after reviewing the evidence, the reporting, and the legal analysis, I've come to the conclusion that Tory Lanez was railroaded by the former district attorney, George Gascon. He was also wrongly convicted. I believe if Jesus Christ was Tory Lanez's attorney, George Gascon would do whatever in his power to ensure that Tory Lanez lost that case. Tory Lanez's defense team have alleged the withholding of exculpatory evidence, prosecutorial misconduct, among other issues that I was compelled to write an opinion piece for the New York Post.
That man some water. Speak clearly, damn.
The last week, the New York Post editors reached out to 3 parties, one being George Gascon, Megan Pete's team, and Kelsey Harris. It is also true that Megan's team was the only ones that responded back for that request for comment.
You know there are still stimulus
Fucking
checks you
Steve
can
Harvey.
claim in 2025.
AI.
I bet you didn't. And I bet you also...
Shut up. That's not even you. It's not even
I
the
had
real
some glaring
Steve Harvey.
questions, and that was the reason for this op-ed.
They gonna take us over with AI. Y'all just be letting using that chat GPT bullshit.
Things didn't make any sense to me, many issues in this case, and I was shocked by the lack of interest from the media to ask very simple questions. There were multiple people with gunshot residue on their hands that night.
Correct.
Why didn't all individuals have the residue tested, their DNA tested on the weapon?
Correct.
That's a legitimate question. According to the prosecution, Tory was excluded from the clip of the gun, and according to Tory's defense team, they said DNA analysis showed that there was a 0.01% chance that Tory touched the actual gun itself.
That's crazy.
Another piece that stood out to me, the call that the prosecution alleged Tory made.
The fact that he still got convicted, and that was a fact in his whole trial, that there was literally no chance in hell that this man ever touched the gun, held the gun, or shot the gun, but yet was still found guilty. What the hell?
Confessing to a crime. I listened to that call. I'm sure many of you have as well. I didn't hear a confession. But what really shocked me about it is if my best friend was shot maliciously by someone just 2 to 3 hours before, I wouldn't have answered the call, or if I did, I wouldn't calmly have a conversation with the individual of it. And certainly I would ask, why did you shoot my friend? And more importantly, I would never have given you my current location out of fear of you finishing the job.
Bro.
That was something that stood out to me.
Bro.
I also, in my op-ed, discussed Kelsey Harris pleading the Fifth Amendment. She wasn't accused of anything by Megan Pete,
bro,
or the police, and to my knowledge, she wasn't under any investigation. So why plead the Fifth?
Bro.
What also shocked me is the prosecution gave her immunity.
For what?
What did she do? Is there an allegation of her doing something? I'm not aware of that. Maybe some of you can answer that question today. During the time of trial, George Gascon, just to take you back to where we were at that particular point, he had just barely won a recall attempt. He lost support in many key demographics of voters. Crime was up in Los Angeles County. And this case would have been a silver bullet for him potentially winning. His policies obviously were bad and people were harmed. So that didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. At the heart of this injustice is the misuse of gun enhancement charges, a sentencing tool intended for the most dangerous and violent offenders. In Tory Lane's case, these enhancements were not supported by evidence. But George Gascon, interestingly enough, who is someone who regularly would drop enhancements or not recommend them, chose...
Call me judgmental, but homie sound like a sleazeball. George Gascon. Like, it just sound like you do gritty and just dirty shit behind closed doors, George.
To provide enhancements to Tory, and in his case, in any given situation, according to legal analysts I've spoken with, he would do 1 or 3 years if he did it without the enhancement. That's interesting. Why did George Gascon choose to pursue these enhancements? You know, there's cases I've been looking through which George Gascon has pursued, many in which he utilized these enhancements. A couple come to mind that I would like to reference here. One, Raymond Danger Gonzalez, a Mexican mafia gang member involved in a premeditated murder of 2 young men in 2017. Despite the brutality of the crime, Gascon did recommend enhancements. You premeditated murdered a teenager and another individual, brutal crime. Why would you recommend enhancements? And this case would have been a silver bullet for him potentially winning.
Well, let's run all this back.
His policies obviously were bad and people were harmed. So that didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. At the heart of this injustice is the misuse of gun enhancement charges.
Okay.
A sentencing tool intended for the most dangerous and violent offenders. In Tory Lane's case, these enhancements were not supported by evidence. But George Gascon, interestingly enough, who is someone who regularly would drop enhancements or not recommend them, chose to provide enhancements to Tory, and in his case, in any given situation, according to legal analysts I've spoken with, he would do 1 or 3 years if he did it without the enhancement. That's interesting. Why did George Gascon choose to pursue these enhancements? You know, there's cases I've been looking through which George Gascon has pursued, many in which he utilized these enhancements. A couple come to mind that I would like to reference here. One, Raymond Danger Gonzalez, a Mexican mafia gang member involved in a premeditated murder of 2 young men in 2017. Despite the brutality of the crime, Gascon did recommend enhancements. You premeditated murdered a teenager and another individual, brutal crime. Why would you recommend enhancements, but you would recommend them for Tory? That doesn't make a lot of sense. He also didn't pursue sentencing enhancements for the senseless murder of General Hospital actor Johnny Victor in Los Angeles in 2024.
Do me a favor, go put on a shirt.
There's a lot of issues with this case. Many I think that the media should be pursuing all angles of it. We should not allow there to be unanswered questions. We should pursue open questions without fear or favor to anyone. That includes Mr. Tory Lanez. In his letter from the Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." If we take those words seriously, we must act when injustice is allowed to fester in plain sight. I founded the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety after my innocent teenage brother was murdered in Chicago on June 24, 2022. I stand firmly for public safety, for victims' rights, and for holding criminals accountable. But justice also demands that we protect the innocent and stand against politically motivated prosecutions. This is what I believe to happen here. When we imprison the innocent while violent offenders walk free, which is what George Gascon has often done, we undermine the very foundation of our legal system. Mr. Peterson was never given a fair trial, free from bias, political interference, and media-driven pressure. His continued incarceration erodes public trust and diverts focus from the real work of keeping our community safe. Further, while incarcerated, Mr. Peterson was recently stabbed in prison, as many of you know, a tragic incident that underscores the urgency of this situation and the risk to his life while this case remains unaddressed. Governor Newsom, I respectfully urge you to issue a pardon for Daystar Peterson, known as Tory Lanez, in a full and impartial review of his case. California must not be a state where justice is driven by headlines instead of evidence. And in the case of George Gascon, that was often the case. So I encourage everyone here to go to caldwellinstitute.org, CALDWELL, Institute, INSTITUTE.org, and sign the petition. This petition asks for the governor to pardon Tory Lanez. Thank you.
I know you've been seeing all the news about the crazy stuff these celebrities are doing at those parties with the baby oil. The news is telling us they
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I know there's a lot of noise in the media going on with other stories, but I think that this is one of the most important stories happening right now today regarding our Justice Department. My name is Diana London. I'm the CEO of the Secret Weapon Agency, which is a crisis communication firm, and I'm also the CEO of a company called London Global Strategies. I am a member of the media as well. I'm a commentator on a few networks, and I also serve as an advisor for Giano's Institute and also another company called Promising People that is fighting to reduce the recidivism rate in this country and also to correct our criminal justice laws. As a woman who has worked in Congress on criminal justice reform, I deeply believe in law and order. I've worked alongside law enforcement. I've drafted policy to reduce violent crime. I've seen what accountability should look like. But I also know the legal system without integrity is no justice at all. When we get it wrong, when our courts fail the people they're meant to protect, we don't just ruin lives, we erode trust in the rule of law itself. That's why I'm speaking out today for Daystar Peterson, better known to the world as Tory Lanez. This isn't about fame. It isn't about celebrity. It's about fairness. Tory Lanez doesn't want special treatment. He's demanding equal treatment. And if we Americans still believe in a system where guilty must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then we must admit this case raises serious concerns. Because the truth is, Tory Lanez is serving a 10-year sentence for a crime that evidence, which laid out here today, overwhelmingly suggests he did not commit. Let's go back to the night in question, just like Gianna was just talking about in the attorneys. As the attorneys laid out here today, the prosecution failed to produce a single shred of forensic evidence tying Tory to the actual gun. His fingerprints weren't on it. His DNA was later found to be 100% nearly excluded from the gun, as shown in the worksheet that was provided to the defense late on the eve of the actual trial, after making a request for that very document. After trial, looking at this evidence, there is a 0.01% chance Tory's DNA was on the firearm. That's a difficult statistic to equate with the story as told by the prosecution, which may be why this was not present in trial. In fact, there were 3 people that night at the scene who tested positive for gunshot residues. One of those was Kelsey Harris, as Giano mentioned, the assistant to Megan Pete. According to multiple sworn testaments that you've heard today, including one from the bodyguard and driver with Harris on the 2 days of the trial, Harris admitted to firing the weapon during an emotional outburst. Tory intervened to de-escalate, not to harm. It is important to note, the police did not fingerprint anyone else who had gunshot residue on them that night, only Tory. Why? Even more troubling, the investigation itself was a disaster. Bullet fragments disappeared, the gun serial number was sealed, a move that blocked the defense from investigating ownership. Police failed to follow standard procedures. Why? Didn't mark shell casings on the road and didn't test others involved that night with DNA. This wasn't justice. It was a rush to judgment.
When it's like we told you niggas, it's like, bro, it's the fact that a lot of us normal people, like niggas that's actually been through shit, we told niggas that this is what it was, that it was obvious who shot at Meg. It was obvious. It was obvious, especially as more and more details kept coming about how Tory had relationships with both of them, and it was like, yeah, it's obvious who shot who. And yeah, with that being said, we're gonna keep it pushing. I ain't gonna stress this too much more. I think I want to hear what the dad got to say.
Worse still, the prosecution knew the case was thin. So what did they do? They tacked on gun enhancements, just like they spoke about. The charges, these gun enhancements are meant for gang shootouts and armed robberies to inflate the charges and turn a flimsy accusation into a decade-long prison sentence. Enhancements are a powerful tool against violent offenders, but using them in a case with no forensic evidence, murky testimony, and the defendant with no criminal history, that's very important to point out. He had no criminal history. That's not justice. That's a political stunt. Let's be blunt. This prosecution had everything to do with headlines and very little to do with truth. It was about symbolism, not substance. And that should concern every single one of you here today and in this country. Because when the facts take a back seat to identity, when due process is sacrificed for public spectacle, we all lose. Just yesterday, a Los Angeles court ruled the Menendez brothers, who brutally murdered their parents, are now eligible for parole after serving 35 years. They admitted to the crime. Tory Lanez, who killed no one and has still remained his innocent today, whose case is riddled with inconsistencies and prosecutorial failures, is expected to serve a decade? How is that justice? I've worked in federal criminal justice policy. I helped pass the First Step Act during President Trump's first term. I've spent years focusing on ending recidivism, building rehabilitation pipelines, and protecting the innocent from institutional overreach. I didn't fight for reform just to see the system weaponized against someone because he's famous or inconvenient. And let's be clear. If a high-profile black man with no prior violent convictions can be railroaded this easily, what hope is it for the everyday American who lacks his resources? Some people may want to dismiss this today as noise. But as a conservative, we are a movement that claims to care about over-criminalization, prosecutorial abuse, and restoring faith in American institutions. Well, here it is, laid bare in front of you. The prosecution manipulated the narrative. They buried key facts. They got the conviction they wanted, but not the truth we all deserve. As Giano mentioned, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. warned us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And this case proves it. If we let this stand, if we accept a conviction based on emotion rather than evidence, we abandon the very foundation of our system, that all men are innocent until proven guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website.
More and more, it's just
Timing
gets
of
worse.
these events raised disturbing
Hey,
questions
look,
to me.
all the
I think
getting
they
up
all
and
should
down, we're not
to you
doing
as
that,
well.
okay?
After over 2 years in prison, without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case. You don't have to believe in conspiracies to see the pattern. When evidence was about to come to light, Tory was nearly killed. So let's stop pretending this is complicated. Let's stop treating this like some cultural war flashpoint. This is about a man, a father, a son, Daystar Peterson, who has sat in a prison cell for over a year based on a case that wouldn't pass the smell test in any honest courtroom. The prison system can no longer guarantee his safety, and that alone should be grounds for immediate action.
Sit down
Combine
like
that
this.
with the overwhelming evidence of a botched investigation, and this becomes not just a legal issue, but a morale emergency. Tory Lanez deserves a new trial. He deserves due process. He deserves a pardon. And if justice still matters in America, he deserves to go home. So what now? What do we do now? We're all here today. We are calling on Governor Gavin Newsom, the California Attorney General, and the public at large to act. If you believe in due process, sign the petition now on the Caldwell Institute page that Gianna Caldwell mentioned at change.org. Let your voice be counted. Let the system know that we see what's happening and we won't stay silent. We can't be a nation that claims to value justice but looks the other way when a man is buried beneath the weight of political motivated prosecution. Dr. King said again, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This is that threat in modern day time. This is that moment. Daystar Peterson deserves to go home today. And we, the people, have a duty to bring him home. Thank you.
Alright, this the nigga I
Good
came
morning,
to see.
everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out and lending your cameras to the world. We appreciate you being here.
No, chill out.
My name is Sunstar Peterson, well known as the father of Tory Lanez, but his family affectionately knows him as Daystar Peterson. This may seem not even to matter today, but it does to me. The reason why he bears the name Daystar is because I was scheduled to speak in a conference in Washington, D.C. back in the early 2000s. Back in the late 90s. My wife and I stayed in a hotel across the river in Northern Virginia. I was up praying before that conference that I was supposed to speak at that evening. As I paced back and forth in my hotel suite praying,
Hey, look,
I
sit
began
still
to
and get
quote
down.
the scripture from 2 Peter chapter 1, and it states, "For you will do well to take heed as unto a light shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and the day star arises in your heart. I didn't know whether it was a boy or girl in my late wife's womb. But I heard the Holy Spirit said to me, that is the name of your child. That's why he bears that name today. Now we're standing in the United States of America, land of the free and the home of the brave.
You ain't never seen that?
I have watched from afar, being a Canadian. I have watched as presidents, innumerable, and other officials place their hand on the Bible and swear a sacred oath to uphold justice, to uphold truth, because that's what justice demands. So before I go any further, based on the courtroom that I stood in 508 days or so ago and heard my son convicted, is a court in the federal reality of things
that does not listen to heartbeats, little girl.
Holds the Bible higher than judges. And so I'm going to pray a very short prayer before I get started here today. I'm going to pray that in the spirit of when Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, stood before Pontius Pilate. Pontius said, "Why do you not speak? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you or to let you go free?" It was only one of the times that Jesus ever spoke. He said, "You would not have power over me unless God Almighty gave it to you today. And I have come to bear witness of the truth." Upon which Pontius Pilate replied, "What is truth?" That question was never answered in Pilate's judgment hall. But I answer it for you today because Jesus Christ himself told us what the truth was. Truth is not a philosophy, it's not an ideology, it's not a doctrine, and it certainly is not a religion. Truth is a person. His name is Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth that leads you to life." Father, upon the basis of your word today that this nation was founded upon, I ask that every ear that needs to be opened, including the ear of the governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom, I'm even asking today that in the midst of Mr. Trump's busy schedule as President of the United States, that this would come into his hearing. And so, Father, I ask you today, by your Spirit, because you're the only reason why my son is yet alive, have your way. And let this be glorifying your name. I thank you for it in Jesus'
mac
name.
and cheese, and fish.
So my name is Sunstar Carlisle Peterson. I come to you today in the capacity of an apostle of Jesus Christ. A word from the first century in our times, it would simply mean ambassador of Christ.
Are you trying to
Enemy battleship sunk.
You know what happens?
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy submarine spotted. Attention. Reporting the target position.
So when I stand before you, I don't stand here to speak my own words. I represent a kingdom, and I am under authority to speak only what God allows. First and foremost, I really do want to thank you again, the press corps, and all of you who have vlogs and channels on YouTube or wherever you stream from. Thank you so much for being here. I would like to thank, in fact, all of those who identify with the name Umbrella as One Umbrella. It was actually launched so that my family would not just be the ones benefiting from whatever fame or fortune, but so that all people, anywhere that need a shelter, could come under that umbrella. That's the reason why it was launched by Daystar's brother initially, who is known as Wolfgang Peterson.
Yeah.
So I thank all of you who have always been an encouragement to us, who have stood with us. Those of you standing here today with Free Tory t-shirts.
You punched up.
Gianno, can I have that t-shirt?
Why you just let me punching you up?
Those of you who are wearing these and remembering this person.
Oh, you was gonna put.
Because I want you to understand that from the beginning of this,
you was gonna put me out. Hey,
as far back as 2021, and I watched where a spin doctor for the NBA, now high-powered attorney out of New York, Alex Spiro, ran a campaign to turn my son into a monster in the eyes of the world. At that point in time, God said to us, there is a time to be silent and there's a time to speak. We chose to be silent. And now we've been silent for way too long. The hour demands that we speak. One of the reasons why I stood silent is because I trusted in God, but I also did not want any blowback to affect my son, who was sitting in the belly of the beast. That's why I chose not to speak at that time. I am his father, and that is the second capacity in which I stand before you today as the spokesperson and mouthpiece for my family. Tory has 7 brothers and sisters. He has 5 brothers. He makes up the 5, I'm sorry, and there are 3 sisters. So today I would like to share a few things with you as well. I want to dispel a few rumors because I've been asked to by my son, Daystar, aka Tory Lanez. Number 1, Daystar does not have a drinking problem. He does not have a drinking problem, and that was not the reason why this situation happened. He was not out on the yard, as it was about 6:30 in the morning, and cells were just opened for them to be able to go out to breakfast. On the Thursday prior to this incident, I was called by him, and I was told of the impending threat. And my family and I huddled and did what we always do. We prayed. We get together every single day and we pray. Sometimes it is twice per day. Wherever we are in the world, at a certain time, we're on our phones and we are praying. We pray for him. We pray for you. Because our mandate is not about violence. We're not here for vendetta. We're not here for any of those things. My son, as I stood with him in the hospital room, on the first day, my wife being present, said, "Dad, I'm not holding any animosity against this guy. I don't want to take any action against him. Whatever the system does, the system does." But that is his stance, and that is our stance. Might I go a little bit further? Because this will not be the first time I've said this publicly. I bear Megan the Stallion no ought at all. In fact, we have prayed for her on many occasions in our times of prayer. So this monster that Alex Spiro tried to create, and when I stood in the courtroom on that day and heard a corrupt prosecutor dismiss the fact that so many people, it was overwhelming the amount of people that sent letters to their office and were called to testify before the courts as they were considering sentence, which had already been decided, and the judge blatantly showed on that day that it really didn't matter what anybody said. It was supposed to be a forum in which it would be decided based on all the extenuating circumstances, etc.